All right, welcome to the Stolpa Show on the Cougar Network. Sorry, the Talk Cougar Network, Cougar Talk Network. Let's start over.
I think we should keep that. That's a great opening. Episode 1, here we go.
I am Mr. Stolpa with you as always. I have Father Joe running the board.
Hello, everybody.
We will be joined later by Mr. Moore, Mr. Doug Moore, our Director of Facilities here at Lansing Catholic.
He's sitting here, but his mic is muted, so...
Father tried to mute mine, but that didn't go as well for the show.
So first, we've got some updates just about some things that have gone on lately. So we had the Pro-Life March just a few weeks ago. I went down to D.C. with a busload of about 25 kids.
How long a drive is that, Father?
I think it was like 10 hours.
How long did it feel like?
Ooh. Well, the drive down was longer because it was through the day. It felt like 10 hours. The drive back was through the night, and I sleep pretty well on buses, so I just slept through the whole thing. It was great. I don't think the kids slept at all. They were exhausted. I was like, I feel fine. I slept all the way home.
Do you use one of those neck pillows to sleep?
No, just a regular pillow against the wall. But it was good. Pro-Life March was great. It's good to have some kids there. We also had our junior and senior retreat at Damascus last week. They could sign up for that, so there was like a voluntary thing. There's some pretty cool testimonies, and we'll post some of those on the channel later on, but had a good time there. What else is going on? Catholic Schools Week. Yeah.
That's this week.
That's this week. Yeah, we're recording this during Catholic Schools Week.
Well, if this drops on Monday, it'll be last week.
Well, whatever. Catholic Schools Week.
The podcast delay.
So that was great. We had an all-school mass. Father Brian Lenz came and received the Faith Award. He gave a great talk, actually, so we'll post that later as well. Then we had a staff luncheon. Just had that today. It was delicious. Fantastic. A little shout-out to Vince Caparelli, Betsy Nylander, and all the other school parents who provided for that food. It was delicious.
I ate too much again, so we're kind of in the food coma right now of the podcast,
yeah.
Which maybe will become a thing. It's called Food Coma Podcast.
So what's coming up, Mr. Stolpa?
So this Wednesday, February 7th, we have parent-teacher conferences. They go from 4 to 6:30 here at school. So if you are a parent and you would like to come visit your teachers, it's open house style, so just come find them. They'll have seats outside their classroom. Try to keep it to about 5 minutes for them. We have a lot of parents to get through, and just come and meet them. We also have athletic signing day on Wednesday in the gym. So a lot of our Cougars who are going on, they will be signing with the colleges on that day. Very exciting.
Nice.
So with us, we have Mr. Doug Moore, and we're going to unmute his microphone and everything. Mr. Moore, how long have you been at Lansing Catholic?
So as an employee, I've been here 29 years.
29 years. As a student?
6 years, because it was grades 7 through 12. It's not that I was held back a couple of years, so 35 in total.
Which is longer than my lifespan.
We'll just move on from that.
There we go.
So that was a quick shot there.
Yeah.
So what year did you start for the first time? I can't do math. So what was your first year here?
I was part-time in 1995. I was working as the coordinator of youth ministry at St. Gerard's. I was there for 6 years, and a teacher, one of our former parents, took a job at, Brian Jacobs took a job at Holt for teaching health and phys ed, maybe, doing something. So 2 weeks before, and they're like, hey, we need somebody to do, 2 theology classes. Can you do this? And so I did that first thing in the morning, and then after that, went over to my job at Gerard's.
Did you study theology in college?
I have a religious studies bachelor's degree from Michigan State, and then I actually have a master's in more pastoral ministry, family ministry from Loyola out of New Orleans.
So you were a teacher then for how long?
I don't remember.
But then you became the principal.
So I started out as part-time theology teacher, and then I moved into full-time here as campus ministry, student activities, and part-time theology teacher.
Okay. So you are kind of the master of everything around here. You have done a lot of different positions. You have held a lot of different hats.
I've done a lot of different things. I will not say that I'm a master of things.
The most exciting thing that I found about you, and by the way, Mr. Moore was the very first person at Lansing Catholic that I talked to prior to coming here. I emailed him out of the blue and said, I'm going to come and visit Lansing Catholic. Can I hang out with you? He said, sure. This is before Thanksgiving.
So you're blaming me.
It's your fault that we landed with Stolpa.
Mr. Moore, your complaints at this time for all the things that I have done. But yes, that is Mr. Moore's fault. So we met in the mailroom, and he showed me the first time. It was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. It was cold, and I was living in South Carolina at the time. So I was like, what is going on? But Providence has led me to here. Right now, you are the reigning... He's pausing. He's laughing. the reigning state champion bowling
Coach for Division 3.
Division 3.
Yes.
Which means how many divisions are there?
4.
So there are only 4 reigning bowling coaches in the entire state.
Correct.
Good. Why?
Why is there only 4 divisions?
No, I can do math. How did you get into bowling, and how did Lansing Catholic develop a bowling team with Doug Moore as the coach?
So years ago, we used to have a bowling team. We actually have a singles state champion, Jalen White, who graduated 2010. Phenomenal bowler. And then after 2011, the coaches just said, we don't want to do this anymore. So for 10 years, we didn't have a bowling program. And then COVID hit. And
that's the perfect time to start a bowling league.
There were 9 seniors that were bored out of their minds. They bowled here and there, and they said, we want to start. I think their parents encouraged them too. They said, we want to start a bowling team. So they went. And I thought I was their second choice. Turns out I was their fourth choice. I think they started out with Chad Wenslick, who's another alum. He said no. Then they went to Cutter Hurst, who's married to an alum, and he said no. Then they went to Mike Olds, who's now the principal at IHM. He said no, but you know what? Mr. Moore used to be principal. He's not anymore, so he has lots of time. Why don't you go ask him?
Nothing at all to do with IT or building.
Right. So they came and asked, and I said, you know what? I am not a coach, but if you want something to do, I think it's a great idea. I'm more than happy to sit with you and, be the moderator so that you guys can do this. And
so you start the bowling program, and you go to that first practice. How many kids are at the first practice?
So well, I don't know how many were at the first one, but we ended up with 9 seniors and 3 sophomores.
But I want to talk about that first practice.
Yeah.
When you showed up to the bowling alley and you practiced bowling for the first time, what were your thoughts as you were coaching and starting this program and watching kids chuck the ball down the lane?
So it was a little different because we were at spare time, and because it was COVID, we had these, and they were shower curtains hanging between lanes, so you could do that. We all had to wear masks and, be separate and whatnot. It's like, okay, start bowling. I need to see what you know, what you don't know, and whatnot. And we had some kids who are really good. One of the sophomores, Ethan Wolcott, who ended up being on the state championship team. He did great as a sophomore. And then, a couple others like Nathan Gamazzo, who was a senior. Those were the two, from a younger and older standpoint, I think did the best. And so they just kept bowling. I said, hey, guys, we're going to do this, but we're going to have fun. That's got to be the main thing. If we're not having fun, and they had a blast that first year, I think. So
how many of them had their own ball and own shoes on that first day, their first year?
We'll
say the first practice.
I would say probably a third.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
And how many mozzarella sticks do you think you guys have eaten over the years?
We didn't eat any mozzarella sticks, sorry. But one of the deals was, and I started that the first year, is if they ever got a clean game, which is a mark every frame, strike or a spare, and 2 marks in the 10th, then I would buy them a pizza.
All right.
Now, wasn't the state championship game was on a Friday in Lent, right?
Yes.
And you promised them ahead of time that if they won, you'd buy them a steak dinner.
Good.
Then you were in a conundrum.
No,
well done.
So every year I would say that if we win states, I'll buy you a steak dinner. And so we get there, and I'm like, we get a shot, So I'm texting Father Joe and Dominic and just going, hey, asking for a friend, if their team wins states, today, can they have dispensation to eat steak?
Of course.
So
I don't know if I've ever dispensed someone from the meat thing on Fridays, but I dispensed you, right?
Did, I
I was like, if you guys win, go for it.
Father, how common is it to give a dispensation over text message? Is that something that happens a lot?
I mean, this is the 21st century, so it's probably becoming more common. First time for me.
So then, after we won, instead of texting back that we won, I texted back, well, it looks like we're having steak tonight.
Yes, that was great.
It was good.
That's a fantastic. Mr. Moore, thank you for joining us. Plug your team. What do we got coming up for the bowling team?
So tonight is our last regular season game against a school in our division. We're bowling against Charlotte, and then next week we have got 2 what we call crossover games, schools not in our division. One's at Royal Scott, which is where regionals, we're playing Grand Ledge, which that's why we want to practice or play against them, so we have practice for regionals. And then we're going to Fowlerville and Hazlitt. So Hazlitt will be the 8th, February 8th. That's our senior night. So
perfect. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh, Father, were you going to say one last
Well, I was going to ask you, you've announced that you're retiring, which is a big
Yes.
deal because you've been here so long. What are your, do you have any plans for retirement that you want to share with us? Or?
My plan so far, so hopefully it'll be the end of June. The first full week, I'm going to go to Gethsemane, a monastery in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Spend some time, and I think my wife may even join me. So part of that will be, all right, God, what do you want me to do next? But the plan after that is 2 months of just making sure the house is taken care of. We do things there, clean out the place so that our kids don't have to do it down the road. And then we're going to Spain and Portugal to walk the Camino, go to Fatima.
Awesome.
Then I'll decide what I'm going to do when I grow up, when we get back. So
Well, maybe we'll have to get an update a year from now. You can come back on the show and
There we go.
tell us what it's
Sounds
like.
good.
Well, I also feel like, Mr. Moore, that you have a plethora of stories that we can tap throughout this whole thing. So we may have you back on to tell some more stories. So thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
This would be
Appreciate
the
it.
part of the podcast where Father Joe would ask questions that can be submitted. So
Yes. So
how would they do this?
Well, if you look in the show notes, there's a link that takes you to a Google form, and you could submit your questions there. Because the show is so new, we don't have any questions yet.
So please subscribe to our podcast. It's available on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we look forward to seeing you guys again next week or listening to you. And thank you for joining us. I'm Mr. Stolpa. This is Father Joe. Have a good day.
See you later, everybody.
Stay out of trouble and trees.